All right. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar of the year. It is estate planning series. Today is March 16th, 2024, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So we're going to introduce, my name is Joanna Adebi. I am the president of Community Outreach Partners for Empowerment. And our vision is to encourage and empower people to pursue their dreams, visions, and goals. And we do that by bridging the gap between someone's dream and reality through referrals, consulting services, scholarships, adult learning and career development, and informative workshops and seminars. So today we have six focus areas that we are developing and wanting to share information on and partner with others. And one of those is estate planning, and I'll talk about later on some of the other areas. And so we have with us today Shalonda Ajabola, who is a licensed attorney in both Missouri and Texas, and she will be kicking off our webinar series on estate planning with us today. And I had a brief bio that I wanted to read for Shalonda. Give me a moment here. Okay, Miss Ajabola, a Kansas City, Missouri native, earned her undergraduate and law degrees from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. She moved to Dallas, Texas in 2016. She quickly became aware that Dallas, Texas is good ground for planting a business and so opened the law firm in 2019. Mrs. Ajabola has had years of experience with nonprofits, churches, government agencies, corporations, and small businesses. She has lived a life of service and enjoys helping people achieve their dreams. She believes that regardless of how technical our society becomes, people are still the world's greatest asset. Mrs. Ajabola is also a published writer and podcast host of Kingdom Social Justice Solutions. All right, Shalonda, take it away.
Well, good morning. Happy Saturday. And I'm so happy to be here. I'm actually I'm on the board of COPE, Community Outreach Partners for Empowerment. So I'm excited to be able to work with COPE and providing this training series. This is a 3-part training series on estate planning. And today is the first installment. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Well, before I do that, as you can see behind me, we have a Leave a Legacy Challenge 2024. So that is a challenge for people, your loved ones, people all over the world to complete an estate plan before December 31st, 2024. So before the clock strikes midnight and we cross over into 2025, we want to have completed an estate plan. This is something that I feel very passionate about, and I want to encourage people, especially in our community, to get this done. So that's what part of this training is about. Once again, like I said, it's a 3-part. Today we're going to be talking today about death and money, navigating the emotional triggers in the Black and Brown community. The next training would be failure to plan, lessons learned from our elders. And then the third part of the training series will be leaving a legacy and building generational wealth in the Black and Brown community. So, but this first installment, I want you to kind of relax. You know, it is early Saturday morning. Kind of relax. We're not going to get into the technicalities of what is required and the documents that are required for an estate plan. But I want to kind of use this as a coaching session because what I want to also let you know, the objective and the goal is our goal is by the end of this training series, you will have either begun or definitely have all the tools and encouragement and motivation that you need to begin your estate plan, or if you've already started to complete your estate plan, and whether that's for yourself or for a loved one or for a friend. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So we can see that.
Yes.
Okay. So as I said before, so this first installment we're talking about death and money. Okay, and talk about these emotional triggers and things that these words and these events tend to bring up in our lives. So our first slide here is what you see here is a picture of a family, and what it is a picture of a family reunion. And I don't know if you've ever been to a family reunion, but we've been to family reunions. And for those of you who may not be familiar, well, what is a family reunion? That's usually when all the kids get together, the cousins, the aunts, the uncles, everybody gets together. And sometimes, at least for us, we do something at go to a park and have a picnic. It's a barbecue, and it's all kind of cousins that you haven't seen, new people you haven't even met before. And so it's a really great fun time, fun experience. You get to meet new family members that you've never met. So what you have is generations here. And so what I have here at the top is Big Mama, matriarch. And those terms, some of you may be familiar and some of you may not. But if you remember, there's the movie with Martin Lawrence. It's Big Mama. But so I want to see, can you recognize the matriarch in this photo? And I would guess that it is the lady in the front. It looks like she's in a wheelchair and she's in blue. And she's got the crown of gray hair. So that, generally that matriarch, that big mama in the family. And I want you to kind of think about in your family, whether they were, whether that's your granny, and they might not have been called these names, but I just want to kind of explain what that name or that person represents. She's usually the glue that holds the family together. She seems to have all the answers. She's a peacemaker. She's the one that if there's conflict, she's the one that can bring everyone together and people will behave for the sake of Big Mama. She's the one that, she can make the best pies or sweet potato pie or whatever it is. She's the best cook. She's the one that would take in the grandkids. She's the one that would put up her house to help the family, to help someone, one of maybe the grandsons get out of trouble, or maybe end up having to raise her own grandkids. So after she's raised her kids, she's had to raise her own grandkids. And so just want to kind of think about who is that maybe in your life, or who in your friends and your in your community, your circle, that person represents. So this next slide here, we have Mi Familia for our Hispanic brothers and sisters. And here we can see the patriarch. And if you notice the patriarch, and you see they're the one seated. It's the one with the gentleman with the nice gray curly mane. And so we think sometimes of a patriarch or papi, usually someone that, think of very affectionately, probably got war stories, stories of growing up, the things he survived, or whether he, grew up on a farm, or, sometimes our parents have those stories where they had to walk 2 or 3 miles to school, and they had the snow was 3 feet deep. And so just, those individuals, think of who in your life holds those roles in those places in your life. And for me, in my family, my dad was that patriarch. So similar to how I was describing the matriarch, the big mama, my dad was actually the male side of that, over that role, that patriarch. He was the glue that held our family together, because he wasn't just our dad, but he was very present, and he was a pastor. So he was our counselor, for me anyway. He was my counselor, my mentor, my coach. And he could fix things. He just wore so many hats, and he filled so many roles. And so I'm going through this because I'm kind of taking you on a journey, if you will go with me. I'm just thinking about who these people are and who they are in your life. And the thing about this, and I can speak even for my dad, is he was my hero. It's sometimes you can kind of look at these people in your life and they feel almost like invincible, like nothing can happen to them. They can't get sick. They can't die. You just know they're going to be there forever. But the reality is that things do change. Okay? And so one day, if you haven't already got it before, there will be a day when you may get that dreaded call or that text. I still remember the phone call that I got regarding my dad. I remember where I was working, and actually it's been 10 years last month that he's been gone, but I remember I was working in downtown Kansas City in the H&R Block headquarters during tax season. It was February 1st. I got a call from my sister, my younger sister, and I could just tell that she'd been crying, just the emotion in her voice. And my dad had been sick prior to that, and he had been going to the hospital, but it was something different about this phone call. And if you've been there, you can probably understand or relate to what I'm talking about. But we got that phone call, and so this is just a process of, so think about it. This is someone that that was my hero, that I held very dear, but yet even in this situation, the phone call did come. Okay. And so I just put here this word death. And for many people, that can bring up a lot of emotions. Depending on what you've been through, what you've experienced, sometimes you may not have had death to come as close, like for me as a parent, but maybe, a distant cousin, maybe a friend, maybe someone you grew up with in the neighborhood, maybe it was your grandma, but maybe, sometimes it always depends on the closeness of the relationship. But this word can bring up so many emotions, and just, that's why we're talking about this today, because we're kind of, the goal and our objective is how can we get past the barriers to completing an estate plan. And I feel like for a lot of us is because of what we have experienced, what we've seen other people, what they have experienced. And so when we think of death, like I said, just seeing this word death, that can strike and bring up memories, bring up different things that has happened. And that's the same with funerals. We've been to funerals. You could be trying to hold it together. Some people avoid funerals. It's just a lot of things that's happened at funerals, and even for us in the Black and brown community, we've had those, people have lost, have miscarriages, kids, young men that have been shot, maybe shot by the police, or just shot by, in gang violence or in the neighborhood, or family violence, when somebody has been harmed by someone that was in relationship with. So some of us have just been through so much. And so when we think about funerals, when we think about death, it has so much pain attached to it that I think we come to a point where we want to avoid it at any cost because of all the emotion and things. And not only that, I believe it's because we haven't dealt with a lot of the trauma and the pain that's come from the different deaths and funerals and things that we've experienced in our lives. And so we tend to avoid that. And so on the other hand, like I said, this is about death and money. For some reason, even no matter how our parents have lived or how, they may have been very modest, you've seen, your parents' house, but for whatever reason, it seems like when somebody passes, people think that there's just a pile of money. Like maybe grandma had a pile of money tucked away in the basement somewhere, and it's all of a sudden people come out of the woodwork thinking like, I want a piece of something, I want my share of something. And it's like, your parents or your family were not millionaires, so I don't know where we think this money is coming from, but just everybody, and it's not everyone, but it's just something that tends to happen. It's death that triggers things, and money is these things that get people to start acting very irrational. And so we see here is a scene from a play. It's called The Piano Lesson, and it's basically the piano is an heirloom that was left where the siblings inherited from their parents, and so what they're doing here is they're fighting over what to do with the piano. So something that should be cherished, something that is a legacy that represents your family. That's something that should be, whether put on display or taken care of. But then we have the siblings, bickering and fighting over what to do with that item. That shows you that something is brimming underneath the surface. And so the same when it comes to what I have here, of course, is a picture of a house, and you just see it because once again, I'm a I'm an attorney and I do estate planning, but I also, and that's what we'll talk about in the next series, next part, the second part of the series next month. We talk about when we failed to plan. So kind of like what happens when having to go through probate when there is no plan. And I have I can share one of the examples, but sometimes you have something that was left by a loved one, and it may not even have, if you look in it in the market value, it may not have a whole lot of market value, and family members will be fighting over something like this, as opposed to, if you one family member, if you already have, what you need, then let the one that is in need of the item or, whether it's the property or the car, let them have the car, but sometimes it's, once again, these emotions, death gets people to just start fighting over things that probably not worth fighting over. And a lot of that, I believe, has to do with what we have experienced in life. It's almost like death unlocks, and as you see, this key here, and what I'm talking about here is family drama. You got sibling rivalry. You got fathers that were absent and the children that were abandoned. You got family secrets. So there has been a family abuse and any kind of abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. It's just something about death that seems to just unlock. The floodgates are opened up, and just all that there was brimming underneath the surface, all that people were kind of holding at bay, just seems to erupt, almost like a volcano. And I had a situation, and it had to do with my grandma. Now, she didn't pass, but in a way, because she had Alzheimer's. So, in a way, if you think about it, when someone has Alzheimer's and they start losing, they don't remember, their other people, and so in a way, that is somewhat of a form of death because they're no longer the person that they used to be. And so that, when she was transitioning and, having to go into, basically staying with one of the aunts, but then having to go into the nursing home. It's like that situation kind of just opened up the floodgates of things that were going on within the family. But so that's what I'm saying. A lot of stuff happens. That's what I'm talking about. The emotional triggers, that death triggers this, and the money triggers these things that are hidden underneath. But it's something that has to be dealt with. But it's also the reality of what we're facing. And so, like I was saying before, a lot of it is because it's trauma. It's things that have not been addressed. It's attention. It's like I said, abandonment. It's abuse that have not been addressed. And I feel like that's why I'm directing this. And this can happen in all kinds of families, but I'm saying specifically in the Black and Brown community because a lot of us have been through so much. We've been through so much as a people. Surviving slavery, surviving Jim Crow, and surviving so much discrimination, and still being constantly oppressed or just so much disparity, and even now with things being attacked. And so we kind of go through a culture, and even immigration, and things with our in both communities, where the things that having to go through, and people traveling and risking their lives to escape where the country they come from to try to come here, and then just going through all the thing that is involved with being a new immigrant and trying to get status. So there are a lot of us as a people that are just surviving. We just made it, and so I think we can live in a culture of survival. And so when it comes to death, I feel like there's almost an unspoken feeling that, we lost the battle, we didn't make it, JoJo didn't make it, he succumbed to this, he succumbed to that, and sometimes even we think about our young Black men, it's like, wow, they make it to graduation, they didn't, they didn't get caught up in the gang, they didn't get a girl pregnant, they didn't get in jail by the get locked up by, committing some crime. And so he finally gets married, and he finally, starts having kids and progressing. He got a career. We think, okay, he's making it. But then if he, contracts some, colon cancer or prostate cancer, and then he passes, at 48 or 50, you're like, oh man, you know, he lost. But if maybe we can change the way that we see death as not as something that we're necessarily has I guess overtaken us or defeated us, but see it as a transition, as we graduate, because we are just passing through here. This is this is a phase. This is a season. Life is but a season. And so the very fact that we were born in this earth is evident that we will one day leave this earth. So my thing is, let's think about it as just preparing. Let's process and prepare. Just as we practice for a test, an exam, a huge exam. Like I've taken the Missouri bar and I've taken the Texas bar, and I'll spend months. I'll spend like the whole almost 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months to practice for that exam, because I'm preparing myself so that when I go into that exam room, I'm not looking at questions and looking at things for the first time. No, I have practiced. I've tried to simulate the exam as much as possible. But I prepare myself mentally. I prepare myself physically to endure the stamina that I'm going to need for that exam, because these are like the Texas exam was like 2.5 days. So that's the same with even a woman that's pregnant, preparing for giving birth. That's a very traumatic. That's a very intense, physically intense situation, set of circumstances. And so women prepare for that. They prepare by working on their breathing. They're going to the doctor. They're going to their appointments. They're taking vitamins. They're doing things in preparation for what they know is going to eventually happen. The baby's got to come out. You can't just have babies growing without. So they have to come out. So you have to prepare yourself. The same even with the wedding rehearsal. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not just, don't think of it as just preparing as something that is bad, but think, like I said, with the exam, you prepare. That's a good thing. It's one of those things that you have to go through. You know, the other side of the exam is getting the license to be able to do what you want, whether that's, insurance, real estate, is going through that process. And so even with like a wedding is a joyous thing. It's a joyous occasion. But people still prepare for that. They prepare by their vows. They're walking down the aisle. So they're getting in preparation for that day that they know is coming. So what I'm suggesting to us, let's prepare. Let's process and prepare. And you'd be surprised that when you prepare for something that's going to happen, when it happens, you kind of already processed it. You know what I'm saying? So you're more sober-minded and able to handle it. So we're not discounting the fact that you won't have the emotions of losing a loved one and going through the pain and the hurt of that loved one, and that the difference that makes that this person is no longer there, or even your loved ones. It's not that they won't go through that pain, but the more that we can prepare, that can help minimize the pain and the emotional stress that they go through. So as we prepare for difficult situations, like I said, we can then become more sober-minded when they occur. I have to say that my dad, when he passed, like I said, he was sick for a while, probably about 2 or 3 years before he actually passed. And then I remember discussing with my sister, and we kind of were talking about people that seemed like they were around that time, their parents were passing. It was kind of a similar situation. So we kind of, in a way, I feel like we're being prepared and kind of processing, wow, like, what if this, did happen? Like, this could happen sooner than we thought. Of course, we felt like, look, we're too young to be having parents that are sick and, thinking about death, but it was just kind of one of those rallies that we've seen. It was happening. And so the thing would be, what would exempt us? What would keep it from happening to us? And so I think because we were kind of already mentally preparing ourselves, at least I can speak for myself, I was a little bit more sober-minded when it did occur. And I don't know if it also come from my dad, but being a pastor, we've seen and done so much, dealing with other families and serving other families, and then me working in the criminal justice system and working as an attorney and just hearing so many things already, maybe already kind of prepared me. And of course, I believe God also prepared me as well and gave me a peace concerning it. So that's my hope with this, is that you take the time while you don't have the pressure. While you're not at the hospital and the doctor is telling you, hey, your loved one only has a week left, or you only have a week left, and maybe someone, doesn't even have capacity, or they're in a coma. Like my dad, he went and they put him in an induced coma, and so he was in there for 20 days. So there was, you think about those times. This is not a time you can't have a loved one sign documentation and sign over things, so it's too late. And I've heard of instances where people have been, the loved one is in the hospital, they're going for either some major surgery, they come out, or they're in ICU, and people are trying to then get all the ducks in a row, get their affairs in order, and trying to pass, property and get access to things. But the loved one is not, they're not coherent. They're not able to make those decisions. And so that's what you're in. And so the key takeaways here is, death is a guaranteed event for everyone. As soon as they're born, like I said, the fact that you showed up on the scene is evidence and guarantees that you will be leaving the scene. It's appointed to every man to die. Okay? And so death and funerals and family drama and money, they all can have some form of trauma. And like I said, us as a people, we tend to we just have a little bit more of that, not to be comparing, trying to balance that, but it's just a lot of it. I can just speak from us in our community. We have so much that we've already gone through that sometimes that's what happens. Death just kind of opens the floodgates to these situations. But I also want to remind us that life, and this is for you and for you to think even concerning your loved ones, your children, your spouse, that life will go on after your loved one has passed. Like I said, once again, my dad has been gone 10 years. And I know I used to, as my younger self, without, because like I said, the way that I thought about my dad, he was my hero. He just wore so many hats, and he was just my coach and my mentor. So I just couldn't imagine him being gone, and just even when I would even kind of think about it, I would just the emotions that would rise up. But the reality is, he missed my wedding. And when I have kids, he won't be there as well. So, but my thing, you got to remember, would your loved one want you to stop living? No. They wouldn't want you to stop. They want you to keep on living, keep on moving, keep on being the person that they raised you to be with, if that's your parent or, your loved one, your spouse. Your spouse would want you to go on and live life. If you want to get remarried, go ahead, and they want you to be happy. And we got to think about that life does not stop. For a while we do pause, and like I said, even I'd say in the some African traditions, when someone passes, it's a lot of traditions and rituals and things that are done. Just from what I've heard from a friend, that it's a big deal. So we do have that grieving period, that grieving time. But after that, you keep on living. Okay? So if we were to give homework, the homework that I would provide to those that are willing to take this challenge and go on this journey, and like I said, Leave a Legacy Challenge 2024, completing your estate plan before December 31st, 2024, what you can do right now is process what would change or what would need to be done if you lost your loved one tomorrow. Sometimes you just gotta sit and process. If your spouse was to pass tomorrow, if your parent was to pass tomorrow, what would happen to the house? What would happen to the kids? What would happen to the life insurance? Just start going. Do you even know what your parent has? Do you know what your spouse has? What would happen to all the accounts what would happen to just think about the assets, the things that you have. How would you plan for that? And so if you go ahead and process that, then maybe you would understand the magnitude of, wow, we need to get these things in order and get this in place. Because I don't want to be, or what I would suggest, you do not want to be in a situation where the loved one is already gone and now you're trying to figure out what to do. Okay, and like I said, we'll talk more about it the next training about what happens when we fail to plan. All right. Joanne, I guess I'll turn it over to you. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Shalonda. We appreciate the information, and I've been putting things in the chat. No, we don't have any questions from the audience, but after this live, then we will definitely leave it posted so that if those that view it do have follow-up questions, then I'll definitely get that back to you. Thank you so much for opening this series about estate planning, and just talking about these issues that people, a lot of times we try to avoid. But the next session that Shalonda mentioned will be April 20th, 2024. It'll be on a Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I'll be posting the link to register, and encourage those that are watching and that hear about this information or see the things posted on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook to please make it part of your schedule to at least attend one or to share with other people, because we do need to make sure that we have our affairs in order, because we do want to lessen the burden that could be on our family and friends if something should happen to us. And just like Shalonda shared, we had our own experience with our father in 2014, and and there's several things that after that experience that that prompted me to get some things in order. I did finally do my estate planning in 2021, but as I've mentioned that since then I got married in 2022, and so I need to update mine. So I'm joining Shalonda for this Leave a Legacy Challenge to make sure that my affairs are in order. And so I encourage those watching and those listening to this information to please join us and getting our estate planning in order before the end of the year. Just want to also put in a plug for our next webinar that's going to be on Friday, March 22nd at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's going to be starting off our workforce development series on resume writing. Let me see if I want to share my screen. Switch to the host. And we also will have a organizational development. Series that will be starting as well. That's going to be on Saturday, March 30th at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Write the Vision and Mission. The resume writing that's going to be on Friday, March 22nd is on workforce development series on resume writing. So tune in with us. You can go on our Facebook page, Community Outreach Partners for Empowerment. You can also go on our website at KCMO, at copekcmo.org, and am I still sharing? Sorry, Shalon, let me go back. We're still live, but am I sharing my screen?
No.
Well, this is fine. We can stay right here. So bear with us. It's our first time, or my first time doing this. I was supposed to be sharing this video, and I hope it's still going on. But if not, let me see. I think, I don't know. I want to make sure that we're still live. I think I am still live. but I'm not sure what's being shown. So give me a second here. Oh, yes, I am still live. So thank you for those who were bear with me through those few seconds. I was trying to be fancy. So anyway, I wanted to share those events that's coming up. Yeah, let me just share a little bit about Community Outreach Partners for Empowerment. So in case you didn't hear the first part. So my name is Joanna Adebi. I'm the president of Community Outreach Partners for Empowerment. And like Shalonda mentioned, that she's also a member of the board. Um, we have additional board members, Robert Day from out of New Jersey and Diana Smith, also in Kansas City. We are incorporated in Kansas City, Missouri, nonprofit organization. We are 501c3, and it was founded in 2009 by late Pastor Cedric Smith, who was also our father. I became the president in 2015, a year after he passed. Our vision is to encourage and empower people to pursue their dreams, visions, and goals. And the way we do that is to bridge the gap between someone's dream and the reality by, providing referrals, consulting services. We've done a scholarship in the past, adult learning and career development, and informative workshops and seminars such as what we've provided today and we will be providing throughout this month. This year is going to be our 15 years since it was founded in 2009 by Pastor Cedric Smith. And so there's going to be several events and things that we are planning and will be promoting. One also just to because it's been 15 years since the organization was founded, but also that it's been 10 years since Pastor Cedric L. Smith passed away. And so we want to honor him, honor the vision that he has. We are his legacy. My sister and I, those who were serving on the board, we are his legacy. He had a vision also of a community center in Kansas City, and so one of our projects, a building project, is the Cope Center. A vision of Pastor Cedric Smith is going to be a community resource center on 50 off of 57th and Prospect. So you'll be hearing, if you've not already heard, some information that we are doing with that. If we are accepting volunteers to help us in these endeavors, donations, of course, you can go on our website, copekcmo.org. And and other things that we're doing is these webinars. We would like to also do some in person. You'll be hearing more information about that. Well, we'll be in person in Kansas City, either on site at our properties or other places or rent. The Cope Center will have event space for rent. It'll have office space for partner organizations, a small computer lab for the community, and also these informational sessions and webinars, whether it be our organization hosting them, or we will partner with other organizations that are already providing this information. We don't want to recreate the wheel. Again, we're community partners, community outreach partners for empowerment. We want to serve the community in the 5th District of Kansas City and beyond, nationwide. That's why we can, COVID helped us to be able to reach people on all parts through these technologies, such as what we're using today. The classes and sessions that we want to focus on is organizational development, workforce development, digital literacy, financial literacy, adult education, and estate planning. So these are our 6 focus points that we are organizing our activities and information sessions about. And again, if you're watching this and you feel that you have that you can help us in this endeavor, then feel free to contact us. You can reach us at 816-895-2673 or email us at copekcmo@gmail.com, or you can go on our website, copekcmo.org. You can contact us on Facebook, Community Outreach Partners for Empowerment. We're also on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, and also on LinkedIn. So thank you once again for Shalonda for your time. Do you have any closing remarks before we close out?
I just want to encourage everyone to join the challenge, Leave a Legacy Challenge 2024, and you can get a free estate planning questionnaire that's kind of like an inventory list. Allows you opportunity to take inventory of what all you have and what you want to do. And that PDF you can find at my website, if that's okay for me to mention. www.sjsmithlawllc.com. Again, that's www.sjsmithlawllc.com, or Kingdom Law and Justice. If you Google Kingdom Law and Justice, you should be able to find it and pick up that free PDF. All right, to join the challenge.
Okay, I put it in the chat.
Thank you.
All right, thanks again, Shalonda, and thank you for those that are watching, and connect with us. We want to help and provide this information, and we pray that it's been useful for you. Have a great rest of your day.